I had a lot of time to digest this chapter because this build-up for me, for some reason, I thought that someone was going to get brutally murdered or get some limbs chopped off or something, and I have no idea where this expectation came from. But I was pleasantly surprised at what this chapter had to entail, and good thing I didn't do any speculations about what was in Kyrion's locked door in his apartment last chapter review. I would have been dead wrong. This is the fourth of the 4 Fast Pass chapters that have been out since the release of Season 2 on July 14th, 2020. This chapter, titled Restless Reminiscing, will be out August 10th, 2020 at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I also think that my alter title for this chapter is probably my best work yet because rendering pertains to creating/producing, which is tied to art, and the Ren in rendering is Lauren's nickname from the past, reminiscent of the past. Anyways, if you don't use coins, please ignore this video until you get to the chapter yourself, as this will be heavy spoilers. So my question is, who do you think is in the frame, and do you think we'll actually get that reveal of that frame in chapter 55? Now, let's begin. So let's talk about Kyrion first, as this chapter is pretty split between Lauren and Kyrion. Actually, before that, let's talk about why 54 was so hyped up. It's because of the nature of releases in webtoons. I think I can say that chapter 50 and 54 were the most intense, while 51 to 53, varied as they were inherently set up in some world building, while the releases that the readers had to take time to process were emotionally charged. I've been told that chapter 59 is the next high point, and to be honest, I wish I didn't know, since it kind of changes how I perceive the chapters, especially chapters 55 to 58. Now I'm iffy on how FastPass alters story progression for the reader, because as a FastPass user, you're constantly get cycled back 3 to 4 chapters every week, which I don't think is a bad thing at all, but again, that's for another video. I think at the end of this one, I'll talk a little bit of predictions, and I'll do a little bit of retrospective look at the 5 chapter stretch. So, Kyrion's humanity is locked away in this room of his apartment. The facade of maintaining a public record is what he put out to the rest of the apartment. The music box, the one sketch, and some books, although I do think the books that were named are important, but this room is what he tries his hardest to stay as pure as he can in his core, while murders and the actions that he's done as Purple Hyacinth continue to try to chip away at that core. There is a window, so it's not like he wants to completely avoid someone peeking in, since it is just Kyrion drawing, but at his most vulnerable almost. We see some sketches in the main living room in chapter 38. Some of the ones we see is a man on a bicycle, some alleyway, and what looks like a guy, maybe Fleming's. So what makes the drawings in the locked room different? Well, Kyrion tells us exactly why. It's to remind himself that humanity can be beautiful. Also, Kyrion always got drip. Even younger Kyrion looks fresh with that stripe button down. Granted, to me, he doesn't really look too much of a younger version compared to the difference in physical structure between past and present Lauren. It is so sad yet beautiful that we get to see a more humane side of Kyrion. Not just this chapter, but the entirety of chapter 2, as he's trying to make amends to Lauren post chapter 43. I can't really make out any of the drawings on the wall that he's laid out for his kind of like a mosaic of what might be his top moments of humanity or something. Also, his locker room is kind of messy. It's a messy AF, and it almost seems like he tries to at least draw once a day for something that he cherishes, so that he can push along in a positive light day by day. The first drawing that he is currently working on is of Kim and William bickering, which probably happened off screen while they were giving him a tour of the department before Lauren's arrival. Probably arguing about why Lauren was actually late this morning. I guess Kyrion is a shipper, since these two in the snapshot that he captured look happy, even though we know a little more about both of their backstories that isn't as happy as Kyrion potentially knows about. The next one that we see is still on the desk itself, is when Kyrion gives those little kids in the slum some extra money in chapter 45. And some people, including me, thought that this was some kind of code or something that the Phantom Scythe uses kids. But this moment looks completely different now, as it was Kyrion's moment of humanity and humbleness for the day. There's a picture of Lauren with the scarf, and I don't really know where or when this was taken, but she looks kind of cute in this drawing. And then the last drawing that we got is a close-up of Kyrion hesitating in their first encounter with Lauren, where Kieran could have killed Lauren before she handcuffed him. And it looks like even he doesn't know why he stopped in the moment. Also, he's using some like third person's perspective because he's looking at it from the side like us, the readers, are looking at it, because he wouldn't have seen the scene that way. But anyway, I guess this is something that will probably be unraveled, maybe not this season, but the next one, as it seems of some sort of foreshadowing for their past relationship or interactions. But Lauren that night was the second most impactful person / moment in his life. So I wonder who the other one in this big golden frame that is conveniently blocked. Is it Dylan? His parents? Some childhood friend? DL? Question mark? I have no clue, and I don't think we'll get this shot of this big drawing in 55. Add more suspense to the entire thing. Lauren's shower gets her to reflect more about her time with Tim Sake and all the perplexing questions that he has given both Lauren and the readers. We see a flashback from the lie in chapter 48 about Sinclair's car, that it was explicitly used for this operation. Her parents were marked by the Phantom Scythe, and the driver was a part of the Phantom Scythe as well. This last point is what gets Lauren to go reminisce in the attic. There was no need for her to look through this information before, but now with this new lens, since she had thought for the past 10 years her parents' accident was just that, an accident. Tim's Sake shifted her paradigm, so the logical thing is to go through old documents to search for clues. We got a beautiful horizontal shot of the attic, and the lighting here is amazing because the only light we get is mainly from Lauren's candle and a little bit of what seems to be a window. There's a wedding dress up there, and some people are predicting that it's Lauren's mother's dress, but I thought this is, her uncle's house, so it's probably more appropriate to be Tristan's wife's dress, who we still haven't seen in the story, so maybe she's passed away, so this is a memento of her. I'm not sure. Lauren finds her parents' stuff from their office, so probably whatever was there on the top of a desk or some shelves, a few days before the bombing occurred. We see a lot of people in this portrait of young Lauren, Dylan's father, and then we see 3 maids, 1 butler, 1 driver, and then her parents. The teardrop is sad as she's reminded of a happy and smiling Dylan, and also with the fact that most of these people in this painting are gone from her life. We learn about the driver's name, Abel Sandman, and it looks like he was employed for a while at the house since April 16th, XX10, almost 7.5 years before the bombing. Now, I don't know if this is considered a confirmation because Lauren doesn't have the full picture. Lauren doesn't have all the information, but she believes that the driver was also killed, which could be true, but I don't think we ever got it fully confirmed by the story itself. This blue pamphlet from May 4th, XX14, 3 years before the bombing, 3 years before the public reveal of the Phantom Scythe, 3 years before King Edward dies from the bombing. We have this article that talks about how the class system is hurting the lower parts of society with the staggering of wealth and resources, which is a huge problem in our own society. This propaganda, which was illegal to publish during King Edward's time, even though this is pretty peaceful compared to what the Phantom Scythe actually did. Some situation that put stress on the class system, which we don't entirely know how this class order originated. So it's either some economic downturn tied to wealth, some lack of resources tied to goods or trading, or a multitude of things that could have happened, but the outcomes of this seems to be a widening gap between the rich and the poor. And sadly, not much has been addressed to cause proper change, even now. Although it's interesting to note that 15 years ago was the same time that Radcliffe started the circus, so this could be a direct consequence of that situation, leading to Radcliffe becoming a Viscount. There was a card inside the propaganda of a publishing company that was around since XX75, so about 42 years of existing. Before, I'm assuming it was, reconstructed now in modern times. This company was on 5403 Waterbury Avenue, and I initially thought that it would be in the 11th district, but the number seems a little too big for anyone who wants to check out some of my predictions of the locations. Check out the card above. Either it's on the opposite side of 45 White River Street where Lauren lives, and I know Lauren doesn't actually live on the street address, but she's kind of close to it, or it's in another district, maybe in Gray Chapel in District 6 or District 3. Point being, this card has some red writing, that everyone is dead, no point of return, and not everything is over. It seems like Phantom Scythe is taking down this peaceful group, Snapdragon. The Snapdragon is the one that published this propaganda. Lauren suspects her parents are part of this organization, which would make a lot of sense for them to travel somewhere to plan against the Phantom Scythe, because they got this kind of information sent to them by Orion Sons. What if the Phantom Scythe had to specifically target the Sinclairs because the rest of the Snapdragon got blown up at the train station itself? What if the train station was a 2-for-1 deal for the Phantom Scythe to take out the awful ruler that we've heard about, King Edward, and the nobility, which primarily consisted of Snapdragon, a peaceful group that had nobility trying to make a change from within the upper class. This probably upset a lot of people like the Phantom Scythe because, what would these rich people know about the struggles of the poor? And that peacefulness will not work for rapid change. The driver probably notified the Phantom Scythe and got Abel a directive to drive off the cliff and end the last remnants of what they thought were the last remnants of Snapdragon for good. Lots to think about. I have a few more theories, such as more about Orion Sons and as well as Snapdragon itself, but I'll wait for maybe some more evidence to come from the story as we progress through Season 2. I will probably make some theory videos at some point, and they should be fast pass spoiler spree, so look out for them whenever. And again, if they're not spoiler free, then of course I'll put that spoiler warning in the beginning and in the title as always. So to reiterate, this 5-chapter stretch had a lot packed into it. Again, the nature of webtoon releases allows for the authors to direct the narrative in an interesting way that's not possible in the manga medium, where in manga every single chapter needs a solid cliffhanger to get people eager to read the next one. And I don't mean to put this in a negative light or something, but chapter 51 to 53 stretch, their cliffhangers weren't that cliffhangery, which again, I think is fine because these chapters were released in a batch. What's interesting is that we don't know where we will start for chapter 55 because there's so many open routes for the story to take, and we might even jump into something new, but I'm excited for Monday's release. That's all for the video. Thank you for watching. I'll try to keep up with the releases so that the new Fast Pass chapter will release Monday 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for me. So expect either a Tuesday or a Wednesday release to give myself enough time to process the information provided. As always, make sure to heart the chapter on Webtoons when you finish reading and comment to be a part of the community. If you get a chance, subscribe to get access to these videos every week. My social media can be found by searching Inspirational on YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. Shout out to my designer. You can find his work on Instagram at JatinV_photography. See you all next time.